Hello, you're watching the press preview. It's the first look at what is on the front pages. It's time to check out the headlines tonight with the Daily Mail's consultant editor, Andrew Pearce, and the Daily Mirror's associate editor, Kevin Maguire. They'll be with us from now until just before midnight. Look at that bunting, fantastic bunting, badges as well. Speaking to them in a moment. First of all, let's check out the front pages for you, starting with the Eye. The Eye heralds the Queen's Platinum Jubilee with the simple headline, 70 not out. The Telegraph carries a passage from Her Majesty's special message to mark the occasion, in which she says, "We look to the future with confidence and enthusiasm." And the Sun is also full of praise for the Queen, again using that new photo. Likewise, the Express, which proclaims, "A grateful nation salutes you, Ma'am." Now, on the political front, The Guardian hears that Boris Johnson has been told that his own efforts to change the ministerial code in a possible attempt to avoid blame for Partygate risk undermining public trust. The Financial Times quotes JP Morgan Chase's chief executive Jamie Dimon warning investors that an economic hurricane is on the way. And in the midst of the travel chaos across the country, The Star has an image of a pilot who resorted to loading his own aircraft with baggage. And a reminder that by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's papers while you watch us. And we are joined tonight by Andrew Pearce and Kevin Maguire. Lovely to see you both, and good to see that you put some decorations up as well, Andrew. Kevin, where's your Union flag?
Oh, well, I've got my Jubilee mug. It's Platinum Liz, 70 years on benefits, just for a little bit of balance.
Platinum Liz, love it. Great. Well, we'll talk about the Jubilee in a moment. But first of all, let's talk about the breaking news in the last couple of hours regarding Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. All the papers just about managing to squeeze it in before the first editions go to press. Andrew, why don't you kick things off? Front page of The Guardian, quoting Amber Heard's statement after that verdict was delivered. She says, "I'm heartbroken."
Well, you know, she shouldn't have written the article in the first place, should she? She wrote an article in the Washington Post, first person, talking about being a victim of domestic abuse. It was clearly aimed at her husband, and the jury found unanimously again and again and again that it was a vindictive attempt to destroy him. It's had a profound effect on his career already. I think some estimates that he's lost $40 million already. He's been written out of the Harry Potter follow-up, and also the great Johnny Depp series, the great Pirates of the Caribbean series. There's no point in having Pirates of the Caribbean without having Johnny Depp. Look, both characters in this trial came out as deeply flawed, but she looked, I was talking to my girlfriends about this. We all thought she was lying. They were both flawed characters. Nobody really wins in all of this, but I've got to say, I'm pleased he's the victor, although he probably needs to take some time now and rather clever of him. What's he doing? He's performing. He was in the Albert Hall the other night, and he's in Newcastle tonight. She was in the courtroom, very dramatic, very emotional, but you have to say she's in big trouble now because she's going to have to find millions and millions of pounds in damages and costs, and she was never an earner in the league of Johnny Depp in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, it has been so public and so graphic, hasn't it? I think it's been many, many years before since we've been given a sort of an insight into such a dysfunctional Hollywood relationship. He may have won the case, but do you think his career can recover?
Well, I suppose Hollywood is all about money, and it's whether he can, get bottoms on seats and people will pay to go see his films, and that's what the big movie companies will be thinking. But it was a horror show. It was free for us. It's not turned out to be free for Amber Heard, who lost 15 million to 2 million because she had that one small victory. But it's a position where she wins in London in the High Court. He loses. He wins in Virginia. She loses. But I think Andrew's right. They've both lost in a way because we saw that both have a rather unpleasant sides to their character and have both behaved incredibly badly in the past. I hope she recovers. I hope she can move on. I hope she gets movie parts. Certainly, she was getting a hell of a lot of abuse, but of course, he's a far bigger figure, as Andrew said. And then you always have an element of misogyny too in the abuse you see online. It's there in whatever walk of life you are in. But what a terrible case! It was just all. I followed it, but it was, and you kind of ooh. But you're looking into two people's souls, and you would say neither is nice.
Yeah, and Andrew, just very quickly. I was just going to ask you about the cameras, because the cameras are fascinating, aren't they? And as you know, cameras not really allowed in courts in the majority of time here in the UK. But out there, the judge made the decision that cameras would be allowed. And that does mean, doesn't it, every second is poured over and, of course, re-edited now by members of the public and shoved onto Instagram, TikTok or Twitter.
All over the internet, and that's what made it so compelling, because you could read it in the papers and it was fascinating, but then you could watch it on TV, you could watch their actions, how composed she appeared to be, all the sobbing and weeping and wailing in the witness box by her, how cool he looked. But then you also thought, God, he used to be a bit of a god in terms of looks. He put on weight, weird hair, weird clothes. And then the extraordinary performance by Kate Moss, who never give interviews. And then we saw her by video link from her home, and I thought, I don't think I've ever heard Kate Moss's voice before. That's why the whole case was so surreal, so absolutely fascinating. And of course, he did wheel out lots of people to support him, to say there was never any suggestion of abuse by him, including his former wife. And he seemed to have all the big guys on his side.
OK, well, let's talk about something much more pleasant, shall we? Front page of the Telegraph. It's a photograph in many of the papers. This rather lovely new photograph of the Queen in what is quite a relaxed pose. She's sitting in a window seat at Windsor Castle. And as the Telegraph says, Kevin, she's saying that we look to the future with confidence and enthusiasm. And over the next few days, I think we are going to get a sense, aren't we, about how the Queen wants the monarchy to look going forward. She's going to very subtly set out her stall, I think, for the future of the royal family.
Yeah, I think it's a rather nice photograph, and I think it's a very pleasant picture of a granny great-grandmother, and I think much better pictured that way, portrayed that way, rather than in uniforms and sashes and whatever. But no, Republicans like me are just going to have to suck it up over this long bank holiday weekend, marking her 70th year of hereditary privilege. But I'm not sure, actually, it's the right tone to talk about the future and the way she has confidence and enthusiasm in the middle of a cost of living crisis, when people are worried about 9% inflation and declining living standards. She's insulated to some extent from all those pressures because of the sovereign grant, 80 million plus, and she's one of the richest women in the country, if not the world. So I can see why a lot of people want to bend the knee and bow and curtsy, but I'm just not sure that is the tone she should take. Yeah,
front page of The Sun, don't you just love her? And again, that photograph. Kevin, I mean, we are going to enjoy the next 4 days, or many of us are going to enjoy it and celebrate. But I think there is also
an extra day off.
Exactly.
I'm going to enjoy my extra day off, but I'm. I mean, I think the Mail, Andrew's paper, had 12 million people were going to go to lunches, street parties and so on. That does mean, actually, in a country of 67 million, 55 million don't, which is just more than 4 in 5. I think a little perspective is there. But no, I hope it's sunny for everybody who wants to celebrate and have a party and have a good time and have an ease up and any old excuse. A couple of my neighbours have got bunting up. I've offered to go around and find out who did it if they're going to object, and it wasn't them. But no, it's well, at the same time, we can all get a little bit, or some people can get a bit too carried away. Look there he is. He's not dead.
Well, your neighbour tonight's got the bunting up.
Yes, quite. Listen, yeah. Kevin, he is completely graceless, isn't he, and tone deaf. This is a remarkable milestone in the life of anybody. We're never going to get a platinum jubilee again. It will be probably decades before there's another jubilee for a British monarch. She's done 70 years. When she was 21, she pledged a life of service, and that's exactly what she's given. She's given her heart to this job. She's given her country to this job. I wouldn't have wanted that job for all the tea in China. She doesn't go on exotic or foreign holidays or travel the world in private jets. She works. She goes to Scotland to Balmoral in the summer, and she's happy with her horses. She's a fantastic example of selflessness and devotion to duty. She looks great in that photograph, and she's quite right to talk to people about looking forward to a happy future. She's hardly going to say, I'm sorry you're all struggling and worrying about the cost of living crisis. This is a weekend in which she's talking about have a good weekend, a good bank holiday weekend. And Kevin might not like it, but the estimate is 1 billion people would be tuning in on TV worldwide to watch the celebration. They wouldn't do that for the Queen of Spain. They wouldn't do that for the Queen of Sweden. And they certainly wouldn't do it for Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. Or a president or president of the United Kingdom. No way. She's a living embodiment of British pomp and pageantry at its best.
Andrew, you know that is a made-up figure, that 1 billion, and there's more than 7 billion in the world. But anyway, it's a made-up figure. My objection isn't to her as a person, or most of them as people. I might make an exception with Andrew. After that £12 million sex settlement case. It's the actual...
You mean Prince Andrew, not me.
It's the idea of a hereditary institution as head of state, and you do not get to say. There's no meritocracy in it. There's no democracy in it. There's no equality in it. It's all there to try and stop change and kind of, in a way, give a sheen, a glean, establishment respectability to inequality and unfairness.
Kevin, I hope you're not going to fume all over the bank holiday weekend.
He is.
I'll have a great time.
Listen, I want to move on
because
we're short of time, so I want to move on, and I want to focus on the front of the Guardian, Kevin. In fact, the Queen, the Jubilee, is pushed into the corner of the front page. They're majoring instead on changes to the ethics code. Tell us about this story.
Yeah, the Guardian's remembered its Republican roots there up at the top right. When I worked for it, had a campaign to abolish the monarchy. Didn't get too far, it's got to be said, but the fight goes on. Now, this is Jonathan Evans, who is the chair of the Committee on Public Life. He's former MI5 chief, so he's no Robespierre, warning that Boris Johnson's changes to the ministerial code, which means ministers are going to have to resign for what are called minor infringements, and Christopher Guy, the government's ethics czar, who is said to have been thinking of resigning unless the Prime Minister justified how he can somehow stay when he's been found to have been breaking the law over COVID, won't be allowed to launch independent investigations. And according to Evans, this is undermining public trust, and it comes as more Conservative MPs speak out against Boris Johnson, who could possibly next week face a confidence vote. Andrew,
just give me a sentence on this, and then we're going to move on.
I think it was a completely unnecessary fight for the Prime Minister to pick, really. It gives off all the wrong echoes, all the wrong smells. I'm sure he's doing it for the best possible reasons, but it looks pretty bad at a time when a lot of people think he's broken the ministerial code himself.
OK, and Andrew, just staying with you, let's have a look at the holiday chaos. We've just got a minute left. The Matt cartoon is quite good. I don't know if we can slide that in. It's on the front of the Telegraph. Some people at check-in, and the person behind the check-in counter says, as our special tribute to Her Majesty, we've cancelled 70 flights today, which I sort of love. It's been miserable for so many people, hasn't it, Andrew?
Absolutely miserable. I think the Telegraph's reporting on the front page, the advice now is take a rucksack with you only if you're going abroad. So that means you're going to have to buy clothes and toiletries on holiday to try and limit the delays. These airlines they're absolutely bang out of order. They moaned and complained and whinged about all the travel restrictions in Britain. Then when they were lifted, they had no staff. They did not enough to get the staff back. They sacked far too many during the lockdown, and they've been too slow to recruit them. How did they not know there wouldn't be a huge surge of people wanting to go abroad as soon as was practically possible? They're a disgrace.
OK, don't go anywhere. Andrew and Kevin will, of course, be staying with us for the next hour to discuss tonight's news and tomorrow's headlines right now as we approach the celebration